Interestingly, what the county said is that they don't have a hard and fast rule. Typically, if an individual, if a residential property owner is doing their own driveway work, replacing their apron, widening their apron, or if the damage is due to their own equipment, a lot of times I see this with farm equipment, if it's due to their own use, the county puts it on the owner. However, their maintenance folks will, as I understand from what I was told today, if a residential owner calls out and says, hey, my driveway culvert has failed, the county will come out and replace it.
That was the impression I was under.
And however, the staff at DOT did point out that the county's position, in her experience, ran contrary to virtually every municipality that they worked with. In other words, it was just one of those unusual instances where the county seems to be
Generous.
a little more generous than the municipalities tend to be. I don't have a formal survey or understanding of what the other communities' policies are.
Pat, you said this was a pair of 24-inch culverts?
Correct.
So,
Am I correct in guessing that these culverts are really serving a much larger area than this man's property?
Oh, indeed, absolutely. There's, if you, hopefully everybody knows where the south end of Wigan Road is, and the watershed tributary there goes all the way up to Riverwoods Road at Burr Oak. I mean, there's all of Hiawatha Woods to a large extent. I mean, perhaps not all, but yeah, there's a much larger area that drains in front of this house.
and who paid for the installation of the culvert?
Mr. Hamdan.
Well, it seems like whatever we do, we're setting a precedent. And I wonder if we should first have an inventory if we were to suggest that the village take responsibility for culverts that are serving a much larger area than the specific property that they're adjacent to or located on. I think we would want an inventory to see what kind of financial impact we're signing up for. Is that feasible, Pat, to do
It's
something
not
like
only
that?
feasible, but it's already in the can. We have every culvert in town located, size, photos of them. So that's what I went through here to come up with what else was out there. I don't have the numbers here with me, but certainly I can supply the board with the count of the culverts.
And you have the count of the culverts, but do you know which of those culverts are providing drainage for massive areas? I know what goes past this house. I've seen it, and it's mind-boggling when they get a rain.
I don't have numerical, tributary areas to each, but it's a fairly qualitatively you can arrive at that just by the diameter of the culverts. The bigger the culvert, the bigger the area that's coming to it. The standard driveway culvert is either a 12-inch or a 15-inch culvert. Those I would consider to be that's typical. You get beyond that, you see quite a few, but they are much less frequent. 18-inch culverts than 24-inch culverts. So we could certainly tabulate, and I think that tabulation would give you at least the qualitative sense of which ones have a significantly larger area coming to them.
At one point, there was a map of the entire village which showed the direction of flow for all the water movement in the village. Is that still available, or is it updated?
Yeah, I keep that map. That was Don Manhart, dated 1973, and it rains almost every drainage meeting that I go to. It's very handy. So I do still have that. At the time, certain portions hadn't been annexed, but of course now we've got topography that Mr. Manhart never had, so we've got a very good handle on the direction of flow throughout the village. So the answer to your question is yes, that map is there, and we've enhanced it with our own mapping since then.
Is it, is your opinion that the approvals of topography changes, et cetera, through the home construction may have exacerbated this situation toward this drainage area?
I think it's undisputable that, Mr. Haven's been there for 30 years. There's been a great deal of infill construction and reconstruction upstream of him that's happened since he bought that house. So I find it hard to believe that the amount of water
decision on this. You were talking about the resurfacing. Is that on schedule now?
In the scope of the project here, the pavement resurfacing of the apron is pretty small. So I don't think we need to jump to a conclusion to satisfy the schedule of our paving contract. In other words, if I have to bring somebody else to do this, it's not going to be that significant. It's the pipes are where the money's at. So, however, and I would ask Mr. Havnak to jump in if the fact is he's got a hole that's in his driveway that's growing. So I would imagine that he'd like to see some resolution. I think we could, in the interim, at very little expense to the village, at least I could send somebody over there to put some stone in there and fill the whole, kind of hold things together for the moment, give the board a chance to come to a decision.
Sure.
I-
Mr. Havernack,
That sounds good to me.
would you like to add anything to this discussion?
Well, let's put it this way. I've dropped in 5 culverts since I've lived here for 37 years. And I think when I built my house, an 18-inch culvert was the mandatory amount. There's been a lot of redirection of water off of Portline, Hoffman, down through Wiggum, coming through the woods at the north end. And it all goes past my house. If I think Pat can attest to this. If you go across the street, they all have the mandatory culverts, 12 inches, 18 inches. And you remember Dave Everhart, my neighbor, kitty corner across, I mean, the Rinkards lived there before. That culvert has been there as long as I've been there, and it hasn't been changed for the simple reason that there's hardly any water running on the west side of Hoffman. It's the way Manhart designed this whole thing. So let's put it this way, when I dropped in the first 18s, and I put in a 18 and a 24, or 2 18s, and I put in a 24, and then I put in 2 24s, and I asked the village if they would at least build some kind of abutment for me. Manhart came over and packed it with some asphalt, and I said that's going to last about the first rain. And I finally got, I was sitting here, 30-some years ago doing the same thing, saying, you've got all the water going past my house. And the other thing that nobody is even discussing, it's property here is very expensive, and I've had a tremendous amount of property erode away because of all this water going by my house. The ditch in front of the house was probably about 3 foot wide. Maybe now it's 15. The little creek that goes in front of Bill's house, Thorngate Creek or whatever it's called, that thing was probably no more than 4 feet wide. Now it's probably 15 or 16 or whatever. And Pat and I were over there, and it's really gouging out the sides of the bank. That is not, as I kind of said to him, it's not even my property, it's my neighbor's property. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that I got so darn mad when nobody would help is, I remember, we're old school. When we moved here, people were a little different. So I built 2 concrete abutments, which Pat has seen. And why this particular erosion has now faulted the driveway, I can't give you a good reason. But after putting in 5 culverts and on a public road, I don't think it's my responsibility, since there's a tremendous amount of my property that's gone, let alone there's a bunch of, I'm the downstream guy. I'm the last guy before we get to Kaplan's house. So, to answer Pat's question, Pat Walsh this afternoon, unbeknownst to me, rang the doorbell, came over. He dropped in 10 bags of asphalt mix just to fix that particular